are seeing right now is in fact the English 11 honors curriculum, but it just has more of a focus on preparing the students for the AP language exam.
Okay,
So
so,
we've broken that course up into 2 chunks.
okay,
Okay?
very well, thank you. That's much helpful.
And that's, and just again for your information, we obviously now are seeing an increase in our numbers in AP classes, which was one of our goals, was to increase the enrollment.
Right, right. Well, they don't want to go into the other English.
Yeah.
So
But many of them are quite capable of the challenge as well.
Okay. Tony?
Mrs. Toole, how many AP classes are offered per grade level? roughly?
In junior year, we offer the AP US History. In senior year, students have the opportunity to take AP Biology. They have the opportunity now to take the AP Literature. And next year, for the first time, we are offering AP Calculus. That was one of our goals for this year, to lay the foundation for AP Calculus. For a grant from the Education Foundation, we have trained a team of teachers to offer the AP Calculus. And so that will start in September. And it'll be, I believe, the first time ever that AP Calculus has been offered.
How many kids have signed up? Do you have a list
The
of?
AP Calculus,
Mhm.
we have 8 students signed up. For our first year, that's a good number to start with. But again, because of the implementation of algebra at the middle school, we're
Right.
going to see many students getting to that year, that
Right.
level of math here.
It'll be up to a full class, hopefully in 3 years.
Yeah, I think we will see it grow, because right now, we have many students who will be juniors who would be enrolled in the pre-calc portion, which is the feeder for the AP Calc.
Mhm. Great.
Anybody else? Mike? No? Thank you, Mrs. Toole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Go
You
ahead.
keep going.
Okay. On to the action agenda, update on the green projects.
Oh, green projects. At the last school committee meeting, I made the school committee aware that as we began to prepare for doing the green projects, part of the studies that had to be done before we even did the designs for for presentation to the MSBA includes going building by building in those areas that we were planning to redo, windows or roofs. And part of the due diligence that we have to do is make sure there's no hazardous materials. And although we did find some levels of hazardous materials in the roofing, at least here in the high school, in some areas, not all areas, those things are minor in comparison to what we found at the middle school, which was high PCB levels in the window caulking and sizing, or I think that's what they call it. It's the internal caulking versus the external caulking around the windows. One of the things that we had them do at that point in time was begin to develop alternatives. Because the minute we found that issue at the middle school, some of the projections in terms of the cost began to come out, and we kind of knew that we would not be able to do all the projects that we originally had slated to be done under the green projects and the bonding capacity that we asked the town to provide for us. So at this point, here's where I think we are. I'm going to start with the high school and the Macomber School. Looking at the high school, in terms of the roof, one of the things we found is that there's many more elevation changes, if you will. If you take a look at the high school roof line, it's not one flat roof, one end of the building to another, but there's a ton of places where you have either things that go through the roof membrane. That's a change in elevation because you have to deal with flashing and how that connects to the roof. You have different areas of the building that are at different levels, one piece higher than another. So again, you're going, it's not one flat roof. If you were to just look at doing it on a basis of square footage, it'd be one price, but every time you encounter a change in elevation where you have a roof meeting a window, a wall, or another protrusion through the membrane, that's an additional cost. So when they came in and took a look, they came in and took a look at what at least one part of the building apparently was layer after layer after layer of old roof, one over the other. That's driven up the price because it's a lot more complex than just putting a roof on a per square foot basis. So I think for the amount of money that we asked the town to put aside, or the capacity to bond and then have the MSBA to participate on, we could do one of two things. Either do the roofs at both the MAC and the high school, or do the roof and windows at the high school. I would suggest we just do the roofs at both the MAC and the high school. That would be my first recommendation as Plan A, if you will. Because the windows, we can do one piece at a time. So over the next few years, we can replace them. They don't have issues like the middle school has. Plan B would be to deal with the middle school as a whole separate project. Here's so far what we have found. When we first discovered the PCBs in the caulking, then we started to ask an outside contractor to come in and test to see if, for example, if the caulking gets brittle, old, and dries up and crumbles, where does the caulking go? We found in a few areas some of that material in the inside sills, some of it in the air, and some of it on the ground outside of the windows. So the middle school will need some basically PCBs, hazmat remediation to take that material out of the school. We do have some idea of what it will take to at least clean the school over the summer. The internal parts of the school, not disturbing the windows or anything like that. We have contacted the EPA because they'll have to approve any cleanup or any changes that we do to the building, including window, those kind of things. The other thing that we discovered as we did the testing is that for a small portion of the adjacent material to the window, whether it be brick or cement, depending on where you are in the building, different windows are surrounded by brick, or they have brick on one side or another, and then top and bottom they hit a cement pillar or column or beam, if you will. So wherever it meets those materials will either have to be replaced. So if it's a brick, the first course of bricks around the window would have to be replaced. If it is cement, the engineers have come up with an idea that they can actually remove part of that cement by what they call scarification, which it's a fancy way of saying we're going to dig out that area that's contaminated and then replace it with new cement before we put on a new window. Our assessment is that the middle school has become more than just a window project. It is a window and remediation project that's going to involve some amount of reconstruction. By the way, it's not just the windows, it's also door openings. So all of that has to come out. We have asked the MSBA to take a look at it. They have not responded. We've been back and forth with them, and every time we get a test result, we send it to them. Every time we come up with a proposal from the architects or the consulting thing, we send it to them. But they have not responded back to us. One of the things that we kind of have seen in other places that have run into PCBs is that the MSBA looks to the town and the community to see how does the community and the town want to deal with it. Is it a separate project? Do you want to do it, through them? It's kind of a partnership. We obviously are just now we don't even have all the results, although I think we'll have them hopefully by tomorrow, if not Friday. But we know it's an issue. The question is, just doing the middle school would take all the money that we have set aside. And it is a very different project in my point of view, and talking to some of the other people in the building subcommittee, they kind of agree. Our hope is to ask the MSBA to consider funding us or helping us fund the 2 roofs under the green projects and allow us to apply to them for an emergency project to remediate the middle school because of the PCBs, not necessarily because of the windows, although the windows would have to be replaced anyway. So it would be a separate request. My hope is that the school committee can today vote to make that request of the MSBA. Not that it binds them, but it gives them an idea of what the school is thinking. So that when they go and deliberate, or hopefully we've asked for either a face-to-face meeting or a conference call meeting. But hopefully when we meet, they'll have that as part of their packet. So my recommendation would be that we request to the MSBA that they help us through the green projects for the roofs, and then deal with the middle school as a separate new project, hopefully under emergency situation, so we can get rid of these materials out of the building. There is no imminent danger. We're certainly going to clean the inside of the school over the summer. There is a price tag to that, probably somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000. Whether that'll be covered through the MSBA or in part, or whether that has to be a separate thing, I don't know yet. We did call for a subcommittee tomorrow. I want to say, what? 3 or 4?
No, it's at
2:30. It's been a long week. I think it's at 2:30 here, so the subcommittee will take this up. And hopefully by then we'll have the architects there, we'll have the management company there, and the hazmat expert there who's been in touch with the EPA, so they'll bring their best minds to figure this out, or at least come up with how we do it. Here's the plan. Where the funding comes from, that's going to be the next question.
You both went at the same time. I'll go in order. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I actually was going to make a motion. Perhaps there'll be
I just wanna make
discussion
a
after
quick-
the motion.
Yeah, can I just ask one quick question, and then we'll gladly get into the motion that really, do you mind? Just a quick,
I don't mind.
okay. Through the chair. I just keep having flashbacks of about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when we had the Watershed Alliance here, and all the water runoffs from the middle school, elementary school, down into the water.
Oh,
Has that been, have they been consulted at all? Have there been any, now that you've exposed PCBs?
When we took a look at the extent, they come in and do test soil samples. It's concentrated in the areas underneath the particular windows. And, they do test samples down and, how far it's gone. Because it's material, it's not liquid, it's, from what they're telling us, and I can ask that question tomorrow, has it possibly leached into something? I don't know. Will they have to remove that soil and obviously replace it and dispose of it in the way that you dispose of those materials? Absolutely.
I just keep thinking of the Keith Middle School in New Bedford, where they dug, and they just kept digging, and it just kept getting further and further away from the school, so.
We've already done that,
Okay.
and that's why I'm saying, we know where it is, we now just have to figure out what to do with it. On the inside of the school, they have some ideas of how to, clean the surfaces adjacent to the doors and windows, and then maybe do the filters in the AC and cleaning the ductwork.
Okay.